right, we're going to get started here in just a moment if folks want to take their seats. It's hard to see everybody. All right, cool. So here in Soul One, we're really looking at a lot of case studies today. So really excited for the next one. So we have really interesting case study about a company that decided to go passwordless and then did so within 40 days. And we have 3 folks here to talk about that experience with their customer. So we have David Kikuki, we have Kazuya Aruga, and Shinji Kawasaki from ISR here to tell you about how they worked with their customer to take them to passwordless in 40 days. Please welcome them.
This is the microphone right here?
That's your clicker, yeah.
All right, here we go. Okay, good afternoon. Thanks for coming and joining our session today. Very, very excited to be here. My name is David Kikuchi. I'm the marketing guy at ISR. Also with me today, we have Aruga-san. He's our customer success manager. He actually worked with the customers face-to-face, get them to transition. We also have Kawasaki-san. He's our resident product expert. He's basically the guy that handles all the technical part of the migration. So moving on, just making sure I get it. Okay, so the agenda. Yeah, why don't you guys stay on the side? So there you go. Thank you. We don't get in the way. Maybe you guys can sit down if you want. If you want to sit, make yourself comfortable, since I'll be doing most of the talking. There you are. Okay. So, so the agenda. I mean, this week we've been talking about how passwords are dated. They're evil. They're vulnerable. They're not good, right? And passwordless is it. Passkey is it. So this particular session today, we're going to be talking about a case where a customer moved from a traditional password authentication method to the passwordless authentication method in 40 days. And how they did it was really in preparation. They did an excellent job in preparing it. It was all in planning. Let's talk about how they planned. And also in terms of execution, basically they have a very small group of IT members, totally outnumbered. How do they move on? How do they move a larger mass of people onto passwordless scheme in 40 days? How did they did that? So let's talk about how they actually executed. Now, before I do that, let me talk a little bit about this company, about who they are, what they do. They're basically an information service provider focused on wedding venues. They're targeting couples that are trying to figure out, okay, where's the place to have the reception, the ceremony, where to go on honeymoon, the whole 9 yards. Just so that you know, if you actually run into an average Japanese, we don't really have a religion. It's kind of strange I say that, but when we're born, we kind of go to the shrine. You know, if you actually watch the samurai movie, it's all the places that these guys do this sort of thing. And then when we get married, we sort of get married as a Christian, so we end up in a chapel. And when we die, we end up in temple, so we sort of become a Buddhist, right? So when we actually go and attend these lifetime events, we want to make sure we're doing the right things. We're not following the protocol. So going to a company like Company W here to get some consultation makes a lot of sense. They are celebrating their 20th anniversary next year. So they've been around this business for a while. They are the market leader. The number of employees, there's about 300. And number of dedicated IT resource headcount, 2. So it was basically 2 against 300. So how do we do that? They've been a loyal customer of ours for about 10 years, and they're using Salesforce for their order management and HR system. A little bit about us. International System Research, ISR is our name, founded by Dr. Raul Mendez. In 1993, we're based in Tokyo, Japan, and I think I saw him somewhere. Yeah, there he is. Yep, very handsome-looking guy. He has joined from Tokyo to attend this event. Thank you very much. And we actually started off as a web system application development, and we launched CloudGate, which is an IAM platform in 2008. We have about 1,600 contracts, 800,000 users today. Thank you very much. And we are also the first Japanese company to deploy a FIDO-certified U2S server in 2016. So we've been a very good partners of FIDO for quite some time. So what was the challenge? So it was the MFA mandate from Salesforce. So they actually had to move on. They had to go MFA. And their initial decision was to do exactly that, right? Just get Salesforce, get MFA, and be done with it. Now, they came to us, asked for consultation. We looked at their environment and said, OK, what if we do this? We recommended two things. Number one, why not apply MFA to all, not just Salesforce, right? Move all of their SaaS applications under MFA. That's one thing. And second, it was also a perfect chance and opportunity to get rid of passwords, right? Why don't we go passwordless? Why don't we make that happen? And what do you think of that idea? We actually contacted and spoke to the customer and talked about it. It made a lot of sense because, number one, it's faster, it's safer, and it's easier, so everybody wins. It wasn't a difficult thing to convince, but the how-to was the part that was really getting the customers. Okay, all the logics there, it sort of made sense, but how do we really do that? I only have 2 headcount working with me, and how do I really make this transition happen? It really sounded really challenging and daunting to them. So we basically leveraged single sign-on tool to migrate all SaaS under MFA, so that's one thing. Basically one authentication method for all. And then in FIDO basically made it easier because it covered all the authentication process and methods that the customer had in hand. So the discussion was, okay, we got all the capital equipment side handled, so let's talk about the exact how. In preparing for the actual migration, we actually re-looked at the authenticators that they had. Actually, they had a mixed platform of Windows-based PCs, as well as and Macs. We also found out that some employees' PC did not come with biometric authenticators. So that was a problem. So that's when we went, oh shit, and started benchmarking 5 authenticators, the plugin, external plugin types, based on price and reliability. The use model of customer was, okay, it's going to get stuck in there in the PC for a very long time. So why don't we go and get one that's very reliable, biggest bang for the buck at a certain price. We also had some employees that had challenges in getting their fingerprints registered, so we went facial for those set of customers. And we really basically looked at, okay, if we were going to do this quickly and make it easy, that's one of the common themes. If it's complicated, customers won't move. We actually got the IT team to convince their finance team to make sure that these external plugin authenticators get categorized under non-capital equipment so that whenever someone needs a new one or we want to minimize churn or replacement, it's a slam dunk. It's very easy. We don't need to go through that paperwork. The amount of paperwork that we need to go through in Japan just to get a new authenticator is very tedious and long. We got to go through these paper hankos. And there you are stuck and saying, I can't log in, what do I do? Well, maybe your paperwork will get signed off next week. We don't have time for that. So we got to make sure that it gets categorized in the right category. Okay, the difficult part. So again, we have all the authentication methods and support from FIDO. The customer had everything they need. So what do? Now, the biggest takeaway here is documentation and education, getting customers ready. Why are we moving this? What's the process? What if I lose the device that I have it registered? How do I go and replace it? Get all of those questions documented and ready, pass them around in the entire organization to make sure that these guys are actually ready and fully informed of the reasons why we're making this change. They also had a migration status checkpoint to make sure that, okay, who is falling behind, who is not registering, making sure that, okay, if you have any issues, let's make sure we go and address them on time. So they actually contacted each individual and reminded the benefits of passwordless authentication, talked about what do they need, do you need special time, what's going on, looking into the details. And basically the benefit that we reiterated, we had the IT team reiterate the fact that, okay, get the SSO, system going in with making sure that it extends the MFA across all applications, not just one, and make sure that it's a FIDO authenticator is available. So the maximum scaling that the customer will get is basically there. That's the reason why they want to do it, make it easier, make it safer for all of their applications. Okay, the execution was key. Basically, it created a project schedule, a set deadline, and escalation path for every single department. And because there were only 2 of them, they actually migrated by department with lowest headcount first. That would avoid the delays en masse. So if they were to transition everybody all at once with 2 resources, they won't be able to handle all the escalations and questions. So they actually broke into several pieces. They went by department, starting with R&D first. And that is because they thought that, okay, they're the most IT savvy organization. They had the highest literacy there. So if they had any challenges, they would be asking all the tough questions first. So they wanted to deal with the tough questions first in getting it started, and made sure that every time they did that, they updated the procedural document in parallel. So when they moved from R&D next to corporate infrastructure functions, they actually made sure that, okay, everything that they learned from the first team, which is R&D, is already there, so that they don't have to deal with tons of similar questions coming in with only 2 resources, and get their resource focused on the most important task. With this, they were basically able to execute and mission complete it in the busiest part of the year. For them, it was the end of fiscal year, and in 40 days, total of 2 months, they completed and migrated the entire organization to Passwordless. So in summary, the secret of success is they basically leverage single sign-on functionality to extend the MFA beyond Salesforce. So that's something that they're proud of, and they were able to extend, they're happy with. And also the Go FIDO, Go multi-authenticator support for passkeys. They allowed minimal hardware investment. They had pretty much all they need to make the transition. And again, key is education. They provided the how-to document up front, give the users as much information as early as possible, and migrating by department based on team size, right? Go with the smallest team first. It's a divide and conquer method. And we recommended go with R&D first, so that you get all the tough questions answered first. And last but not least, I think the key takeaway for the audience here is the fact that MFA mandate worked, right? So when Ian made that call, let's make this happen, that news spread around the world, landed in Japan, came to the customer. They said, okay, how do we do this? We worked with the customer to make sure that we made the MFA mandate transition successful in the most productive way. So we're in this team together. We can work on this together. Do not be afraid of making tough calls. Get the MFA mandate going. So this is a live case that says, hey, it could happen, and it could happen without pain. So the decision was good. Okay, so that's it from me. I just wanted to proceed to Q&A real quickly, but before I do that, I think Kawasaki-san there had some questions.
Hi, Aruga-san, what is the number one success factor for this use case?
Sorry, in Japanese.
Hi. I'll translate.
Translated. そうですね。一番言えるのはやっぱり教育っていうところです。で、その教育っていう部分で言うと、それを象徴するような話として、最初にこの、お客様が、相談をしてきた、僕らに相談をしてきたとき、担当者の人は、指キーが指紋認証ができるものっていうふうに勘違いされていたっていう話があります。そこからいろんな説明をしたりとか勉強をしてもらって実際に導入をしてもらったっていうようなエピソードがありますね。
I think the critical success factor in making this successful is all in education. The person in charge of this migration effort initially thought that YubiKey provided the entire fingerprint authorization there. And I think it's primarily because the term Yubi actually translates to fingers in Japanese. So it actually, YubiKey sounded like, okay, it's a finger key. So you can actually do the actual fingerprint biometric authentication there with that. And this was the leader who made the decision, okay, let's go passwordless. And that was the level of understanding that he had.
So next question is just general question about passwordless authentication. And how do you think passkey, do you think it take off in Japan?
そうですね。B2C の中では割と広がりが少しずつ見えてきているかなっていうような感じがしますが、僕らがやっているのは B2B の市場でビジネスをやってますが、まあ、そこでは少しずつ認知が広がってきたっていうような状況です。ただまあ、数はまだまだ少ないんですけど、ちょうど1年前、昨年の10月から比較すると、1年間で340% のパスキーの利用者が増えているという形になっています。
Certainly, it's taking off in consumer market in B2C. The B2B part, it's the enterprise is a little slow, but it is catching up. And based on a number that we have, if you kind of look at the number of licenses and the users, we had about 240% increase in passkey usage year over year. So while the base number is still low, I think there's a strong sign in adoption of passkeys in Japan that's happening in the enterprise side as well.
That's it.
Okay, great. So we have about 5 more minutes, just in case if we have any questions. Did we get any questions from the on the apps? I'm not so sure. If there's any questions, I'd like to take it. If it's all good.
No, we do have a question. Okay, I have one in the app as well. Sorry, it takes for us to think about it.
All right, so you started with the R&D department. What was the biggest problem you encountered, and how did you solve it?
R&D チームの方で一番最初に R&D をタックルしたということなんですけども、そこから上がってきた一番の問題や課題って何だったと思いますか？でどうやってそれを潰したかって話ですよね。
そうですね。すごく大きな課題っていうわけではなかったんですが、まあ、やはり今まで、ずっとパスワードを使ってきた。でパスワードを使ってきてそこから、認証の方法を変更するやり方を変えるっていうところに抵抗を持つ方が多かったです。でそういう方にも、まあ、そういう方も皆さんそのスマートフォンを使って、生体認証っていうのは皆さんすでにやっていることなので、それを繰り返し説明することで実際に理解していただけたっていうような感じですかね。
Believe it or not, it wasn't really technical. It was pretty much breaking the habit. They've been using password for a long time. They sort of knew it wasn't safe, but they basically said, hey, we've been using this. So what we did was we basically took the example using our mobile devices and said, hey, this is what you guys do. Why can't you do this at work? It was that, and sorry, I couldn't give you a real good technical reasons, but they got their heels dug in their most favorite vulnerable password authentication method. So we actually had to go in and convince them that.
So the question in the app was to clarify the multi-authenticator support, so specifically what's available to the employees to sign in, and then is there anything to share regarding the uptake of the different types of authenticators? And is that a fair question? Because I think there was just some confusion around like what exactly do they have to sign in from an authenticator perspective?
Okay, sure. Let me see if I can take that. So it's probably my confusion. It's a facial recognition, right? And then there's the fingerprint. Those were the two major ones.
So I think so it's a platform authenticator. They're not roaming authenticators like security keys. That was what the question. Yeah, but can they use security keys too?
セキュリティキー使ってたっけ？セキュリティキーっていうのを使ってた？ No security key.
Okay. Was there any other questions? Well, thank you so much. This was a really awesome feat, by the way. Congratulations to you all.
Thank you very much.
So we just have a little time for session transitions. We do have another session starting at 12:30.